Hey there, it's Pete over at the Sampleist, and today we are checking out Indie 2 by Sonokinetic. Indie 2 String Quartet is the follow-up to the original and hugely popular indie library from Sonokinetic, which was released a couple of years ago. This time, the focus is squarely on the string quartet, and like the original indie library, Indie 2 is a phrase-based library, and the phrases range from woolly, weaving string lines to intimate textures to short staccato lines. There is so much content going on here, and of course it is all played by a gorgeous 4-player string quartet. The Indie 2 String Quartet library downloads at 8 gigabytes, and it has been sampled in 44.1 kHz and 24-bit resolution, and there are over 6,000 samples. And of course we have all of the usual brilliant Sonokinetic innovations and controls that we'd expect to see. So we have various hotkeys, we have purging system, we've got MIDI drag and drop, so you can pop it onto different instruments. There are 4 different mic mixes, and it's been recorded in 4 orchestral sections. Indie 2 String Quartet runs in the free Contact player, and it is of course NKS compatible, and currently it's on intro price of €99.90, and after 6 days and 19 hours it will go up to €149.90. Of course, depending when you see this video, that timer will have counted down, but we have about 6 days, let's go with that. And of course, Sonokinetic have their 12 Days of Christmas sale going on, so it's an opportunity to pick up these beautiful and wonderfully crafted libraries for a all-time low price. So do check those out. We're on day 8 at the moment, so there are still 4 more days and 4 more brilliant deals to be had. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Sonokinetic for sending over Indie 2 String Quartet so we can make this video, and of course while we get the instruments for free, it does not influence our thoughts, ideas or judgments on the instruments whatsoever. I will say at this point I am a huge Sonokinetic fan. I use their libraries all the time, especially the phrase-based libraries, and I will talk about the reasons behind the fact that I think phrase-based libraries are so important in the composing process a little bit later. And of course we're going to do an overview, and then I've thrown it into a composition. So without further ado, let's check out Indie 2 String Quartet. And here we have Indie 2 by Sonokinetic loaded up in the Native Instruments Complete Control player. As you can see, the GUI is absolutely stunning. It's very artistic, it's big, there's lots of controls going on, and it really fills the screen while you are composing, which is useful because if you hit this question mark, you get this bubble overlay that tells you everything that's happening in the library. But I just love the fact it is really, really clear and easy to compose with. Before we move on to the sounds of Indie 2, I'd just like to talk a little bit about why I use the Sonokinetic phrase-based libraries in my composing. The simple fact is, when you trigger a phrase, it is just that. It is a phrase played by a full orchestra, played by humans. So it's a great way to get the human touch, the human element, the human performance into your compositions or performances. And of course, everything is sampled beautifully. You can mix and match different phrases. There are lots of different mic options, and you can MIDI drop if you choose so you can change the direction or the movement of the phrases as well. They are just brilliant for people like me who compose a lot of music in a very, very short amount of time. I'll often do a lot of MIDI programming, and then I want some movement, I want this human element, so I will just bring in one of the Sonokinetic phrase-based libraries, and they just sound brilliant. Let's talk about Indie 2 and the sounds. On the left-hand side on the blue keys, if I hold down a chord, you can see the chord is changing. On the orange keys, it triggers a performance. Now, of course, you can use a mod wheel, and that will sort of swell in and out. And you can play more than one phrase at the same time. And they're all tempo synced to your DAW, so you go faster or slower, the phrase will follow what you're doing, which is kind of mind-boggling. Now, if I was to take this phrase, you can see that the phrase changed pitch in accordance with the chords I was using. So when you're programming this, you might very, very cleanly program a whole bar or 2 bars, and you get these wonderfully seamless transitions between your chords. Absolutely great. And of course, as I said, you can do it with more than one phrase. Works absolutely wonderfully well. And of course you get this brilliant release as well. So no matter where you stop in the phrase, you get a release. Absolutely love it. So that is the essence of indie, or indie 2, I should say. Now, I did get a comment when I did the fantasy video that I played everything in G, or maybe it was G, and it said, what does it sound like in C? So yeah, and I've seen that phrase pop up a few times on different videos. So I'm going to make an effort to change chords quite frequently. Now, if we look in the middle, we're going to use this phrase, or this key. We're going to use that as a just example. So we have that C. Now let's say I would like to change that phrase. Well, here we go. We have all of these different categories. We've got scraps, we've got silky, we've got fluffy, we've got woven, velvet, cotton sewing, threads, and acrylic. Pretty sure that's acrylic. And I love just the little depictions you can see here. It sounds looks absolutely brilliant. So scraps, I'll just play a few examples. So let's say I really like that one. So you just click on it and you have that now. You have that in the instrument itself, which is brilliant. So let's just play a couple more from different categories. So we've got silky. Got some fluffy ones. Go for woven. We have velvet. Yeah, it sounds gorgeous. Cotton. Then we have sewing. And some threads. And then acrylic. And there we go. I really hope it is acrylic. I don't know why. I'm doubting myself. So that is the essence of Indie 2. The green keys are the harmonic shift. So if I'm playing in D minor, I'm just going to go up here. So again, we use this one. Now you can change the harmonic shift. And it will play different chords that will follow the chord progression you're playing, if that makes sense. So you could do some pretty cool things with it. Sorry, wrong key. Okay. So based upon my starting note, it's kind of playing everything in the correct key, as it were. So there we go. Now, if I click question mark, you can see all the different controls we have. Now, Sonokinetic have done an amazing walkthrough on their website, and it's on YouTube as well. So do check these out, but you can adjust everything you need to. So you can adjust transitions to make them smoother. There's offset. You've got the volume. It goes to 11. Yeah, brilliant. So you can quickly change phrases in the category for selector. The two things that I use the most, one is a randomizer. So you just click on the name at the top. And then let's say you get a phrase that you really like, you can lock it in and then go to the next key. Hit the randomizer. Lock that in. So we've got these two now. Sorry. Okay, I've got the harmonic shift on still, so yeah, I wasn't playing what I intended. But you can lock the phrases. So I really like building the phrases that I'm going to be using in my performance. And the other thing that I use a lot as well is the mic selection. So you can just change which mic you're using. And everything's pre-panned as well. So it's a wide. There's a balcony as well. So let's just combine. Yeah. So you get different sounds as well using the mic mixes. It sounds absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, you can get the scores. And once you've played, you can pick up the MIDI. It's going to show like a no entry sign. I don't know what the best way to do it. But I've got my DAW behind me. So if I go out of the GUI, you can drop it into your composition as well. So you got MIDI drop. Absolutely brilliant. Now, that is a brief overlook of Indie 2 String Quartet. The sheer volume of different phrases is absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, you can play all these different keys and different tempos. It just inspires. It gives you lots of different ideas. And, of course, it's an instant string quartet. So, yeah, Sounds great. I love the sampling. I love all the different mic options. I love all the different controls that you can do just to get it just right. Again, it's another fantastic library from Sonokinetic. Now, the proof is in the pudding, as I always say. What is it like to compose with? Well, I spent an hour. I gave myself a challenge to put it into a composition. And obviously, the joy of these Sonokinetic libraries is how effortlessly they blend in with other libraries as well. So I've used some more traditional or traditionally sampled orchestral libraries from Sonokinetic, and I've just used some percussion that I found lying around somewhere in my studio. Yeah, so let's check it out and just see what we all think about Indie 2 String Quartet. And there we have our 1 hour composing challenge composition using Sonokinetic's Indie 2. And I have to say, I really enjoyed using the library. Hats off to Sonokinetic. They made a really fun library. It sounds amazing. It's easy to use. And of course, it's phrase based. So you get all those wonderful human performances. And I just think it's brilliant. But let's talk about why I think it's brilliant. On the left-hand side, you can see that I've used 4 instances of Indie 2. Of course, on each track, I'm not just playing the same phrase, so you can obviously have different phrases on the same track. So I've done that. So we've got lots of different phrases going on. And then I've used 2 Sonokinetic staples. It's Christmas. It's a 12 Days of Christmas sale. So I've used their Sleigh Bells library. And of course, I've used modal runs. And then a piano, a very nondescript piano, low percussion, high percussion, and snare. But it all started off with these 2 phrases. Now that is just holding down a D minor chord, and that's it, nothing else. And when I introduce the 3rd phrase, obviously playing D minor as well, you just get this whole arrangement, and this took all of, I don't know, 45 seconds. And that was it. And then it just changes to a B flat chord. Now, it's very Christmassy, so I wanted to use the Sleigh Bells. Absolutely beautiful. And they just play all the way through the composition, just it's got like a 2-hand setup. Really easy. Love it. And then I have modal runs. Modal runs is just a lovely library. If I do anything fantasy based, I always use modal runs. And I will admit, I got carried away because I love using all of these sort of phrase-based performance libraries. And Indie 2, again, really, really fun, but throwing in modal runs and then putting some sleigh bells on it, I just loved it. So there are a lot of runs in it, but I'm having fun. And having fun is the most important part. Also worthy of note, you may have noticed there's a little block on the right-hand side there in Cubase. For some reason, there are graphical glitches with my GPU. So there we go. Now, I added a piano. I'm just going to mute the percussion just for a moment. And I'm not using any sustain pedal, but it just sits on top because I wanted to show that you can use all of these Sonokinetic phrase libraries, but especially in D2, because that's the subject of the video, with other instruments. Because that's a question we frequently get. When I did the fantasy video, there are lots of other playable instruments going on there, but of course, fantasy just created the whole backdrop, the foundation, and the movement and the character and the realism in the performance. And this is exactly what Indie 2 does. But with the piano, it sounds like this. Sounds great. So that is just the intro, and then obviously some low percussion, and we have it's almost like metal percussion. If you can guess the library, then well done. It's a library that I use a lot. So yeah. Excellent. And now it's in context, you'll notice when we hit the B flat chord, it's almost like, well, I've automated a slight volume swell just to get those strings really to stand out. So there we go. And of course, the modal runs are just loving it. Now, we have the next section. So I'm just going to play it in context. Lovely. So it's a little contrasting section. Now, at this point, I'm just going to talk about how I'm inputting the chords. So that's some hideous... I don't know what happened there. There we go. Anyway, so I'm holding the chord down, and then we trigger the phrase. And you can see that I've drawn in the MIDI for the duration of the phrase. However, what you can do is just use a sustain pedal and just draw in sustain CCs 64. So that's one way, well, two ways of doing it. Now, it makes no difference. I'm just so used to using different Sonokinetic libraries that I just like doing it this way. However, for some reason over here, for absolutely no reason, I decided to the key switch chords just draw in, and then obviously we've got the trigger at the top. Now, I'm just going to isolate this track, and you can hear something cool. So what I'm trying to show here is if you obviously you have these just like the entire bar long and they'll play. Here I've left a tiny gap. So if I just exaggerate that gap a little bit more, I'll just play from here. You get the lovely release. But if I have a smaller gap, that's quite an exaggerated then. A smaller gap, it actually kind of doesn't even release, it just goes seamlessly into the next phrase. The point is, it makes scoring really, really quick. You want a gap, you just leave a gap. You want a phrase sort of going into each other, you play a phrase. And how lovely does this sound? So I'm just going to go straight there. That's right at the end. So it's seamless. If you overlap it, this is quite amusing. It cuts off the amount you've overlapped. I say it's amusing because for ages I kept overlapping my phrases by accident. Not in Indie 2, just other libraries. And I was like, why is it not playing? That was it. So it's funny because it's a user error. And those instruction manuals we get with libraries, they're really, really useful sometimes. But there we go. Anyway, but yeah, how amazing does that sound? Again, I'm just playing 2 4-bar chord progressions. Beautiful. And again, that took about a minute because I just played that in, then copy and pasted it. I was just showing the modulation. And then just copy and pasted it directly up to, there you go, same modulation as well, up to this one. But I changed the phrase. So I think it's triggering on a B note. Let's have a quick look. It is triggering on an F note. So all I did was just audition some different phrases and play it in. I mean, how quick was that? Love it. Keep the sleigh bells. I'm saying quite a lot tonight. Don't mean to. Do apologise. I think I hit the microphone in my headphones as well at one point. So apologies for that. I've just done it again. Anyway, slowly losing the plot. Now, we have these 2 phrases and we have the piano. And the piano, I decided to use the sustain pedal. I don't know why I keep mentioning the sustain pedal. Maybe it's something really new that I've never used it before, or have used it. Let's just play the music. Yeah, it just all fits so beautifully together. So if I just isolate not the modal runs, the piano, and I want the sleigh bells. I love the sleigh bells. Lovely. So what you can see is that I've been quite liberal, shall we say, with my, actually I'm going to say lazy, my MIDI programming, but it still sounds brilliant. And that's the key thing about Sonokinetic libraries. Use them and use them a lot and you know the ins and outs of them. It's really, really straightforward. So I know I don't have to be as precise because just the way they're scripted and the way they're written is just so clever. Now, the next section. I'll change a phrase, so we go straight back in. I've put a snare drum, just going through here as well. And you'll notice there's another phrase that comes in here. Lovely. And I did go for a confused ending, and I'm now rethinking a little part of that snare drum. But anyway, I'll play the new phrase first. So we've got more movement going on. And again, these are real performances. It's not, MIDI driven. And that's what just makes this sound so realistic. I love all the contrasting rhythms sort of interlocking together. And that's a cool thing you can do. You just sort of work through what sounds good together. So which phrases work. And then you build your composition around it. So, yeah, I absolutely love it. So we have this ending. I wanted to go for some kind of urgency. Now, there's a little drum episode here that I know is just completely wrong. Just want to play that. Actually, it's all right. Who knows what's going on? Anyway, there's a composition, but what are the key points? Well, I spent an hour, and it's a new library, so I've not had a massive amount of time working with it. And just be able to pick out different phrases really, really quickly and hand them interlock. It just works really, really well. And then obviously playing different chord progressions and programming and automation, really, really straightforward. And you can really get these performances to pop in your mix. I love the timbre of the instrument as well. So I've already mentioned the timbre, but I just love the sound of this string quartet. And yeah, it's just a great composing tool. And here we are at the end of the video where I produce my closing thoughts. Indie 2 by Sonokinetic, what do I think about it? Well, I'm going to start off these closing thoughts with a point that I made earlier in the video. It's all about human performances, and Indie 2 and all the other Sonokinetic phrase-based libraries, they inject your compositions with human performances, with human feeling. And they work so well. And of course, you have got the MIDI drop and you can change the phrases if you want or change them. But why would you? Because the whole purpose of these is, like I say, to have human performances. The minute you MIDI drop, yes, you can have amazing MIDI programming and different sounding instruments, but you're going to lose the essence of these libraries. So I think they are invaluable composing tools, and I've used them a lot. I use them for library work, I use them with different publishers for custom work, not just because they sound brilliant. They do, they really, really do, but I use them because I just want to have, like, say, this organic flow and not rely on MIDI programming. And of course, there's loads of ways you can make your MIDI programming sound more human. You can obviously change the tempo throughout just ever so slightly to mimic an orchestra, because they would change just a couple of BPM either way. Lots of automation, amazing programming, loads of different ways you can do it to make it sound brilliant. But you have these human performances right in front of you, so why wouldn't you use them? And then of course it leads me on to the whole inspiration point. You play a phrase, suddenly you've got a musical idea, and then you start loading up some other instruments, and it works really, really well. And that is another point as well. These work with other instruments, so you can slot these into your template absolutely no problem whatsoever. Once they're in your template, you can program them, edit them, customize them if need be, throw some effects on them, whatever you want to do, but they just blend it seamlessly with any other instruments you may use for your projects. Do I recommend Indie 2? Well, aside from the fact you get these waves of inspiration, they sound fantastic and they're really, really easy to use and they blend seamlessly into your projects. Yes, I really do. And it all boils down to the human element. I just love having these performances at your fingertips that you can throw into your compositions. So Indie 2 is a massive recommendation. However, it is the 12 days of Christmas, and I highly recommend Sonokinetic's other phrase-based libraries. Today it was day 8 at the time of shooting this video. I think the video is going to go out on day 10, and I really hope you've been following all of the daily releases that Sonokinetic have been doing. They are absolute bargains, and not only the phrase-based libraries, but also the sample-based libraries are just wonderful, and the sound design libraries as well are brilliant too. So essentially I'm just saying, buy anything. If you don't have it, check out the Sonokinetic catalogue of libraries and just enjoy yourself. There we go. There's my Christmassy advice. All that leaves me to say is thank you once again to Sonokinetic for not only creating these libraries that are worth their weight in composing gold, but of course continuing to support our channel and providing us with a free copy of Indie 2 so we can make this video. If you like what you heard, feel free to leave a like on the video, and of course drop us a comment. What do you like about Indie 2? Maybe you've already picked it up, maybe you're using it in your compositions, maybe you're thinking about where can you use it. Is it underscore? Is it neoclassical trailers? Is it something completely different? Who knows? If you're not done so already, please check out our other videos on YouTube, and of course please subscribe to our channel. We have so much content coming your way, lots and lots of lovely delicious libraries that are being currently reviewed and of course being put into videos. There we go, I've just pretty much summed up the channel. Wonderful stuff. Keep making that amazing music, and we'll speak again soon. Take care.